morning, folks. Or good afternoon, depending on where you are.
Goodness.
Morning afternoon.
Hello. Can someone provide me access to the document? I'm trying to type my name in it, but I can't seem to type it in there. Let me unlock that for you just now. As an FYI, folks, we tend to lock the agenda when it is not time for a meeting to prevent people leaving us slightly harassing notes. Unfortunate, but it required. So it's unlocked now. Everybody should be able to add their names to the agenda. And thank you for reminding me to do that. I appreciate it.
And hello, this is Michelle Marks. I'm new to this. I'm with BMC Software, and I saw when I tried to join, like I can only join with my Google Gmail as opposed to my BMC. I sent, and I'm not sure how to join with my work email, or should I just sign up with my Gmail to the Google group?
You should be able to join with either. Can you send me any error messages that you're receiving? Are you on Slack as well?
What did you say?
Are you on Slack?
I haven't signed into the Slack, but I can do that. So what you're saying is just sign into the Slack and send you a message with
Any errors and stuff?
open.
Yeah.
Sure. It just asked me to log in if I'm on the Google, in the Google group. So I'll take that offline in an email.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Sorry.
Samantha, take it away. I'm going to start the recording before you do, though, if that's okay. Oh, we've already started. So let's just kind of officially bring this meeting to a start. It is Monday, February 22nd, 2021, 9:17 a.m. Pacific time. This is the bi-weekly meeting for the Inclusive Naming Initiative. There are working agreements in our meeting agenda, I believe. And while we do not have a formal code of conduct yet, I would ask that everybody be excellent and professional to one another on this call, as you always are. Priyanka is going to host this meeting today, and I will hand it off to her.
Thank you very much, Celeste. Hi, everybody. Very nice to see so many lovely faces here. So if I hope everybody has access to the agenda doc. I will put it in the excuse me, chat real quick if people want. So first things first, if you're an attendee, please put in your name and company association in the document. Second, I&I in the news. Yes, this has already started happening. So last week, IBM and the Linux Foundation announced a group of projects that are going to be, that are open source, donated to the LF, that combat racial injustice. And one of them is called Take Two, which aims to help any creator of IP, whether it's documents, whether it's blog posts, whether it's a journalistic piece, whether it's a code contributor, to scan their content for potentially offensive terminology. And they're going to be basing their list off of work done here in I&I. And Dale and her team from IBM were instrumental in making that happen and reaching out to us on the PR side and going forth with that. So that was a nice bit of exposure that we received. And we're quite grateful for that. There are helpful links to check out related to all this. Excuse me. Oh, and also just good information to have. So please feel free to take a look. since this came up, I wanted to take the first topic that I wanted to bring up for this group is just PR when as it relates to inclusive naming initiative. So we, in addition to this press release that went out from IBM and Linux Foundation, there were other folks who got interested in talking to us, and there was outreach. And we actually had a call with a very famous newspaper in the United States on Friday because they wanted to learn about how what is happening in the tech space, right? How do we translate the effort that we are all making here to the average reader who is very smart, very intelligent, but not necessarily steeped in our jargon and day-to-day life. Would like to thank Mallory for the outreach with that opportunity. We are very grateful. With that said, that forced us to think through what are our processes for PR for INI. And so I have with me on call here, Chad Torbin. Chad, you there? All right, there he is. He's waving. So Chad is someone who does a PR for CNCF, the foundation that I run. And he is going to be donating some of his time to helping us on the PR front as a PR professional for inclusive naming. So the request is whenever there's interest, whenever there's anything cool that you want to shed light on INI for, please always loop Chad in for any opportunities that come our way. That doesn't mean Chad's the spokesperson. He'll just make sure the right spokespeople are prepared, that we have the talking points, and that we're in touch with the press in a consistent manner, and that we make sure we follow up all of the work that goes into it, as I'm sure you all are aware. So just wanted to welcome Chad to the community. Chad, do you want to take a second to say anything?
Yeah, hi everybody. It's great to talk with everyone who I haven't met yet and haven't spoken with. As Priyanka said, our agency does PR, AR, social media for CNCF and several other Linux Foundation projects. And we're happy to help support in anything you all need to, to be able to get the word out there a bit more. So feel free to loop me in. I'll share my email here in chat. I'm also in the Slack group, the Inclusive Naming Slack channel. And feel free to tap us if you have proactive ideas, if you just want to talk about something. I saw someone put some coverage in the channel this morning, which was great to see. So we'll start kind of sharing that as we see it. And we're just here for general support, and anything else we can do to provide visibility for the initiative, we're happy to help. And also, I should say I'm based in San Francisco. So for time zones or anything like that, if maybe when we can get back to in-person coffees and such. It would be nice to meet you all in person.
So,
thank you so much, Chad.
Yeah, so just a note here, what I'll do is, to Celeste's point, I'm going to drop your email from the meeting notes just to save you.
Oh, that's right. That was my mistake. Sorry.
Damn. But I would say that, does it sound good if we spin up like a PR at mailing list and include a few of the, both Chad and a few of the leads on this?
Yeah, that would be great, Stephen. All
right, I'll be on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. We have a really good admin work stream, I feel. Awesome. So that's all I had. Any questions from anyone or any thoughts, concerns, open forum on this topic?
So I have a request for Chad. Chad, it would be helpful if you're going to help us with PR for this work group. If we got just like, maybe a 3-step process that says if there's going to be PR that mentions a work group, who are the people that need to be contacted? Is it the leads? Is there a PR contact from each one of the founding companies, and under what conditions do we need their sign off before inclusive naming is included? Because I know we had a bit of a scramble to get this release out. And I don't think we got inclusive naming included everywhere we wanted it to be, right? So I think that would be helpful as we outlined path forward. Yeah, also, I think one of the things we should work out as a team is what would be, the cadence for us. Do we do a quick blast to team members to say, our company is going to do something, or some foundation is going to do something with our inclusive naming, so that everybody gets to see it at a preview ahead of time? We should think about that. We don't have to solve it here, but at least we should put it as one of the work items for how do we communicate to the initiative team so you're aware of what we're doing. Maybe just a quick, low tech, a quick message in the Slack channel or some place where people can look to see upcoming media events or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Those are
okay.
great suggestions, Dale.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And just a quick suggestion here would be that perhaps the marketing work stream, we can even rename it PR and marketing work stream, and work in that group to put this documentation out.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And
Cool.
I put the link to the Take Two solution, the GitHub link in the chat here, so folks can check it out. Because we would like to actually have some of the Take Two team members come and share kind of an overview of what it is and what they're hoping for from this team. And I can, they're ready to share whenever you are ready to have them do a quick, walkthrough. Because I think it might be useful for us to think through to what extent do we, engage around this, and then for others who are working in this space, in tooling for open source community around inclusive naming, what do we do to engage them as well?
Sure. Dale, maybe we can have them on the agenda for the next public meeting to share their work. And then parallel to that, we can kind of have a conversation either in Slack or at the leads meeting next week to just decide, okay, who they work with most and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. All right, folks. So as I had promised Celeste, got the PR conversation done in 10 minutes. Boom. Moving on to the next topics, which are the status updates. So Administriva.
Hey, so I've been working on doing some technical doodads in the background to set up our inclusive naming more officially. So we now have the domains have all been transferred and have been shared across myself, Ed, and Chris. The part of the domain transfer was establishing a Google Workspace so that we can spin up mailing lists and all that good stuff. I've written hacked together some Kubernetes automation purpose-built for inclusive naming this time around, so we can control the mailing lists. I still need to wire that up to GitHub, but I will send a more formal update when that's all ready. For the leads, you are all part of a leads@inclusivenaming.org list right now. If you don't have access to it and you are a workstream lead, please let me know. That also gives you access to shared Google Drives, as well as the public calendar. Again, I will send a more detailed update publicly a little later. What else? Zoom. We have a professional Zoom account now. Super fancy. All of the leads should have the host key for that. If you don't, please let me know. I sent out an email last week about it. If you're having any trouble with access across mailing lists or Zoom or anything really, you can ping me on Slack or reach out to infra-admins@inclusivenaming.org. With that, we have the things that we need for kickoffs for work streams, so we can jump into work stream updates. Any questions on that before?
Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay. Once again, if you do have any infrastructure type questions, you know where to find Stephen. And thank you super, super, super much for doing all of this work, because you set things up in a way that was far more robust than I imagined, but for the better. Okay. So we're going to go through some updates from the workstream leads. I'm going to ask that both myself and everybody else involved who is tagged on the agenda to give an update. Let's try and time box this to a minute each for the sake of our agenda. Okay, so the language work stream had its kickoff meeting on Friday. Hooray! As a result of that, we decided on how we're going to communicate, where we're going to start our project process, etc. You can view the notes from that session. Let me grab a link and drop it in here. The notes are there. Our next steps are to book ourselves a regular meeting time, as well as kind of catalog what we have in the notes in GitHub as issues and kind of start the work. To note for this larger group, very, very soon we will be putting out a call to see if anybody has internal language recommendations that they can donate or publicize or open source to the group. The first step that we think we need to do is to start normalizing the work that everybody else has already done. So let's figure out where the common ground is, what our existing set of recommendations are, publish those, and then we work from there. So look out for that on the mailing list soon. Please ensure that if you share something, you have the proper sign off to do so, because we are dealing with private companies. And yeah, look out for that in the next couple of days or weeks.
So I was going to open an issue, but the meeting started. But Mallory left a note on the IETF, one of the IETF tracking issues around inclusive naming, that links some of the IETF terminology suggestions. They look pretty solid, and I think that we should open an issue to kind of evaluate those and maybe pull those in.
All right. Who did I put down next?
It's me.
Bill,
Okay.
go Bill.
Okay, yeah. So from the marketing work stream, so I put together like a straw man of goals for KubeCon. So anybody that's interested in the marketing work stream, it'd be great to have your thoughts, comments, suggestions on that as we start to get kicked off. And the second thing is that there's also a doodle poll that I've put together. So if you're interested in being a part of the marketing work stream, then you should fill out the poll so we can get our meetings rolling. So, yep, done.
I have already put my information in. I'm very proud of that. and Bill, you'll be adding in Chad to that, since that's where we can work through the PR processes, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next up is open source Celeste and Steven.
Where's my mute button? Okay, so we're gonna send out a kickoff doodle for the open source work stream this week. I've been handling some of the admin stuff, so the open source work stream is trailing a little bit. Also having discussions with the Kubernetes working group naming about consolidation potentially. So having doing a lot of the same things that we're doing in Kubernetes working group naming here instead, and driving decisions from INI. So stay tuned. Again, emails with long notes coming.
That is amazing. I think that'll be a huge boost for our initiative to become the home where the work is happening, and then you farm it out to Kubernetes. Other folks are welcome to come up with similar things, because it makes INI the central place more and more, which is, I think, useful for the entire cause. So thank you very much, open source team, for doing this. Next up, we have SDOs, Joanna and Matthew. Joanna and Matthew. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I called you Joanna. But you are what are you?
Yeah, no, it was me. It was me.
Okay. No,
I put it in the notes wrong.
Okay.
This cup of tea is only half finished.
No worries.
So we have circulated a doodle poll to schedule our first meeting. We're very slow in getting responses, so we are going to reach out to folks again, perhaps individually if the regular group channels aren't effective at reaching them, and we'll have our first meeting sometime next week.
Awesome. I hope you'll have Mallory in that group. It feels like a fit. I don't know. Am I off?
One thing I would encourage you to do, Joanna, is if you're feeling like your responses are low for the doodle poll, email the larger group. Send something to the mailing list. I think that is
Okay.
the appropriate way to do that.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And by the way, Joanna, I can say, like, based on the conversations last week with certain people in the press community, there's a lot of interest in what's going to happen on the standards bodies. So your work stream is critical to this effort. So thank you for leading with Matthew.
Yeah, well, and on that topic, we would love to have more members of our work stream. It's a pretty small group so far, folks who have volunteered. So everyone, if you're, out in the community and you connect with people who are interested and passionate about inclusive language in standards bodies, please do let them know about this initiative and encourage them to join our work stream.
We will at least send out a tweet about this.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, next up, we have community with lots of question marks next to it.
Yeah.
So I put question marks down there because I realized going back in the notes that we do not have leads for community and tooling just yet. So soliciting some interest. I'm not going to call any names, but if anyone is interested, feel free to pop on Slack, have a chat with us. I'm kind of wearing this hat partially on the tooling side. I think this is going to cover a bit of the infrastructure requirements, as well as intake for new members and new tools, like talking about things like Take-Two. So if you are interested in that, please reach out. I will provisionally wear this hat until someone tells me otherwise.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. There's also the enterprise work stream, right?
Yeah, I was thinking, why is that? Oh, it got messed up in the notes. It was there.
Okay. Got it. Sorry.
Andre, sorry about that.
No problem. I'll give everybody a quick update. So we actually met about 2 weeks ago, and our second follow-up meeting is this Thursday. So good initial discussion of just really sharing some of the high-level things that we want to go after. We're in a unique situation because I think in many ways we're a feeder to the other work streams, that if somebody is interested in an organization and language, to kind of point them and connect them. If they're interested in the standards, connect them there, or in the PR. So really trying to use our discussions to look at it as kind of the umbrella across the whole program of the different pieces, and then use that to introduce the various folks. So we have a couple of additional people that have expressed interest in terms of the follow-up meeting, and I'll share what we put out for some of our initial goals. And looking forward to some of the feedback and some of the sharing of languages and things that are working well at different terms of approaches. And we'll keep that going.
Awesome. Thank you for the progress.
One thing that I would ask, Andre, is because you have so happily moved into a regular meeting phase, can you make sure to connect with either myself or Stephen, and we'll help you get that meeting on the public calendar so that we can start using our public calendar?
Sounds good.
Ping either of us in Slack.
Okay.
So Andre, you should actually already have access to add meetings to the public calendar. Let me know if you don't.
Okay, I'll add the one for this Thursday on it today.
Cool.
All right, open discussion.
One more for Andre. So I would ideally love for there to be multiple leads, at least 2 leads for every work stream. Did we have someone in mind?
We do. Monica and I had kind of built this up together. Monica, do you want to?
I hereby volunteer to help Andre.
Thank you.
Microsoft. So yeah. Okay.
That would be really cool.
We're all respective of our day jobs, but yes, thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. There's a topic of project board review, but I think we jumped that. Okay, awesome. So open discussion. Mallory, you're up. IETF draft.
Thanks a lot. So I've linked, I think it's linked in the notes, so I don't have to do that in the chat, but there's a draft in the IETF as an individual submission about just very specifically the use of master slave and whitelist blacklist that was drafted in 2018. And it
I
was
got
sort
a
of,
404 when I clicked the link. Maybe I don't know if it's just me. I'm sorry.
let's see, the link that's in the notes, hey?
Yeah. I don't know what others are seeing.
So
The other 3 links work.
I speed added a lot of these links, so sorry if
The
anyone.
first one, this link to IETF draft, I got a 404, but maybe.
Oh, I think it's,
I got a 404 too.
we have a new draft tab. Let me just paste it into the,
Thank you.
All right, now I'll update the link too.
okay, so this one works for me. Is that the one we're talking about? I put it in the chat as well. That anyway, yes. So we actually, there was just an update to it today. But so when it was drafted in 2018, you know, there was a bit of a moment, lots of discussion in the IETF, and then it was brought up again this past June because of the political climate in the U.S. It led to more action. So one of the great things that's come out of it is that the IETF is chartering a working group on inclusivity in the IETF, specifically around language, which is really great. So right now that charter text is being decided upon. But then this draft has been cited quite a few times. Like I think the Inclusive Naming Initiative also cites it on your website. And the risk is that if it doesn't get published as an RFC, it will expire and it will say, you know, sort of at the top of this link, you know, this is expired. You know, it's not a standard. I mean, it wouldn't be a standard anyway, because it's best practice sort of informational document. So we want to, I think, keep the link alive. I think ideally, you know, the IETF kind of recognizes the influence this draft has had and goes ahead and RFCs it. Also because it's narrow, you know, obviously we realize there's a lot more work to be done than around just those 2 term pairs. But yeah, I think the one thing that would be required to do that is probably to demonstrate that, you know, in true standard style, that there are many different implementations of this, so to speak. So implementation, we would consider not just like running the code of the internet protocol spec, but, you know, it's an informational document. So implementation would be like folks are citing it, they're taking text from it and using it for their own policies, codes of conduct, their own naming initiatives. So, you know, INI would be, I think, considered a very strong implementation. Individual members of INI that are maybe being influenced by this RFC. So just demonstrating that that is out there would be one step. And then, you know, for those of you that work for companies or groups that participate in the IETF, asking your colleagues, if it's not you, that are on those mailing lists and in the IETF, to actually write in support of it would be another tactic. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think, you know, one of the things that's been lacking is there are a lot of really loud folks that disagree with this approach, but they don't represent a minority, or they don't represent like a, you know, consensus in the IETF, but they are really loud. And I think sometimes folks just don't want to get involved, but sometimes we need that. So it's just a bit of a strategy session too. I'd also love, if for those of you who have read it or haven't, like, you know, I'd love ways to improve it as well. That's always an opportunity, or co-authors, you know, we're always open to that.
Yeah. So by way of like trying to take action to help you, because I would like this link to stay alive as well, at a minimum, would it be useful if we call to the mailing list and say, hey, there is this draft that exists, and if you have cited it or referenced it as work, particularly if you've done so publicly, can you send us a link to where you've done that? Because that kind of helps you build a paper trail in essence.
That would be so great. And we can set up a pad or a Google Doc where folks can just go there and add it in. I've sort of tried to do just, you know, a web search, but sometimes that's difficult because it's not always, you know, if it's in GitHub or other places, it's harder to do that. So yeah, any support in that would be really, really helpful.
I think we can do that. Again, I'm like 98% sure that I cited it for the work that I did in Kubernetes. Like, I'm pretty sure, but and I guess this begs like another question, which is, if I didn't actually cite it and I retroactively decided to like PR against my own work to cite it, is that a problem for the IETF if it's like a super recent citation?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely not. And I think that's fine. I think really just the idea is that, you know, the IETF wants to publish good work, but they also want to demonstrate that it has impact. And so one of the things that's been used against this effort in the IETF is that it's like a thought that has occurred in my, you know, white lady American brain, and that it's not a real problem and that nobody else cares about this issue but me. That is said a lot. And that's actually one of the reasons why we wrote it, because there was a discussion that started around Python removing these words. And this draft came out of that discussion where we needed to document actually with research and references the things that people were saying. And so that's the basis of the document. So yeah, having any opportunity to say like, this isn't just, you know, something that came out of my head, that this is actually a sort of global phenomenon. It's not just US centric either. And that there are efforts out there that demonstrate its impact. That is what we need. So it can happen now, later, it can, you know, so yeah. Anyway.
So some people are still having trouble with the link. What I'm gonna do in the agenda is paste, this is the 4th draft, and what Mallory is trying to link us is the 5th, which doesn't appear on Google right now. However, here's the 4th draft of this document, and that is roughly what we're talking about.
The link without the versioning also should work in theory. It does a redirect, but yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm not really
No,
sure.
it's okay.
Today is draft freeze day. And so I think the data tracker is just up in arms. All the
That's
attention it's
probably
getting.
fair. That's probably fair.
Valerie, quick
So
question.
everyone should reference and link to the draft to show the importance and value of it, and that'll help gain momentum, right?
Yeah, or if
So
you
I
have
have-
already, yeah. Mhm.
I think that's a great idea, but I have another question or maybe suggestion. Aren't we collecting in one place the citations of all the companies, including all of those represented here, and organizations that have said we're going to take a stand against, bias in language? I don't see that referenced in your draft. And I guess, do we have anything ready that they can point to where we have like one index that says, you know, Twitter stand, VMware, IBM, boom, 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 because we all wrote blogs and we have terms. And I think that would quickly diffuse the statement that this is just one lady who's, you know, dreaming this up.
Yeah. You're right. Actually, thank you for that. That we need to be reflecting also your work too. And if it's not there, it's just because I had my co-author do it, and I would have caught it if he.
But did we have a working group that was pulling that together? Because I know we had said that when we had first kicked this off, and I'm trying to figure out where is that sitting in this initiative.
That would sit in marketing right now, or I guess more appropriately,
okay,
comms maybe is the smush of all of that.
Yeah, and on the website right now, if you in the FAQ, we have like a link of a set of links to read like further reading type of thing.
Yeah.
But that's all we have right now, and maybe we can beef that up and make it its own page.
Yeah.
Priyanka, I'd love to help with that, to accelerate that, because I think that'll be useful not just for IETF, but for many of the participating organizations on this initiative.
I think what concerns me there is we have a lot of members from places, for example, like Microsoft, but we don't, I think, officially have buy-in from Microsoft, the large entity. And Monica's face is showing a reaction here. And so I think there's also a question of like how much we're allowed to do with like, I think without official buy-in, because we can't falsely represent somebody as a part of our group or falsely represent an organization as a part of this group.
Let me help there. I want to be a little bit clearer. If a company has published in public media that they are doing work to make IT language more inclusive, that is permission to say that that company is saying that they're doing work to make, whether everybody in the company agrees or not. If they made a press statement, that is basically permission to say that they have. We're just referencing what the company said. It doesn't matter if 150,000 people in Microsoft don't agree. If Microsoft said they did publicly that they are doing this, then we can point to it to say, here are the companies that have have made a public statement that they're doing this.
So let's make this a high priority thing. Because it sounds like it's a need kind of across the board. If there is not an issue already open for it, could someone mind opening something in org? And we can
I'll do it. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you.
Follow to what Dale was saying, because Mallory, all of the big companies have officials that are representing our standards engagements and our bodies and things like that. And I think we have to figure out, do we want them to contact you directly and begin to kind of align, so the person in IBM or Microsoft or Dell, so that you're aligned in those efforts, because I think then that helps validate we're all knocking on the door or saying the same type of message. So it's really kind of connecting it to the right folks, because instead of all of us trying to do it through insights or whatever the various groups that are trying to influence the standards bodies.
Yeah, well, and not to contradict you, but that's a separate suggestion from mine. Mine was simply, many of us who started on this journey did a aggregation of what did other companies say they're doing, and we kept following it up. And I think marketing we're going to collate that to say, here are the press releases from different companies that have said that they are doing something about inclusive naming, just as a citation for your bibliography. The second step on finding the right standards body, I see as a separate step, but as a near-term thing, I think step one is just, point to, here's a list of everybody else who's involved, because I'll tell you that worked very well for some of our partner companies who were getting resistance internally. We shared what we were doing, as well as a list of other companies' work that, other companies' publications in media. And that really woke up people that, wow, this isn't just, a few big tech companies.
Definitely. And when we formed, right, the whole thesis was there is a critical mass of people who want to make change, and let's help them make it. And this will prove that as well. So definitely we can do it as high priority on the marketing team. Once the issue is out, we'll start a doc of all the lists, and we can even have a PR process by which somebody could add their resource. The PR has to be approved by someone and all that to prevent, crappy behavior. Sorry for the words, but I think that way it can be like an ever living document. So absolutely. And by the way, Mallory, by what timing do you need this?
So that's a good point. And I think maybe also speaks to what Andre was just saying about how to, get an update to the next version and then push it through. So we're going to try to go to the individual submissions RFC editor, Adrian Farrell, and he's been aware of this because we've submitted it, since 2018, and just say that, look, we're going to make a few changes. We're going to include, we're going to reflect back to the naming, inclusive naming initiative. I would like to include Mark's comment in a new version. And then I think in discussion with him, we can figure out how to get it into last call. And there, once it's in last call for RFC publication, it would be super great if folks who have colleagues that are participating in the IETF, one thing, like Celeste was saying, does that work for the IETF? Like, one of the things about it is they don't necessarily want newcomers coming into the list to chime in on something if they're not already participating in that space. But if you have contacts or people, especially from your companies, like, if the company has made this commitment, it might be a useful thing to reach out to your colleague and say, like, look, we've made this commitment. One way you can actually action it, so it's not just lip service, is by writing in support of this draft, because a last call conversation in the IETF will probably prove contentious. And the approach that we're taking is just to continually center the fact that there are so many implementations of this already. And that's the only thing that we're going to focus on. We're going to let all the other sort of toxic conversation just flame out. And So that time frame is not necessarily tied to the upcoming meeting in March. I think it will probably be sometime around mid or late March at the earliest. But I'll keep in contact with the SDO work stream about that, and we'll keep you all informed. Thanks so much for letting me talk about this today.
No, totally, very important. So from the marketing workstream side, we should probably try to get something out there at the latest within 2 weeks.
And Mallory, this is one thing that strikes me when I'm looking at the actual document. It mentions about the inclusive naming, but it doesn't mention one thing that you have on the site, like on the inclusive naming site, which is about how it's going from more metaphorical terms that are the ones we're trying to exclude to ones that are more specific and clear, so that it's also clear for second language speakers, etc. And so for the people who are like, I'm fine with my white privilege, I don't really care about changing it, we use these terms all the time, you know, that gives another reason for it. And yeah, I see like in the master slave, you know, it has a whole bunch of other specific terms, and black and white has a whole bunch of, you know, 2 specific other terms that make things more clear. And, you know, I think that might help get it away from poisonous discussions.
Yeah, that's definitely where we started, by talking about metaphors and just good documentation and terminology. It should still be very clear there, but I will review it again just to make sure that that is stronger. We didn't want to necessarily make the draft all about that, because I do think the political side, we can't just bury it under,
Of course.
yeah. So that was also a conscious decision, like how to balance that properly. But thank you so much, Michelle, for that suggestion.
Awesome. And feel free, by the way, to post on the mailing list when things are coming close, like, hey, right now's the time, ping your SDO colleague, just because, you know, people need reminders. And there's a lot of us on that list. Cool. All right, let's look at the agenda again. Okay, looks like that was it. Anybody have any other topics they want to quickly talk about? All right, well, we get 4 minutes back then. Thank you everybody for your time. Lots to do. See y'all in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Thanks so